Have you been thinking of becoming a Canadian expat? You may be surprised of what your financial institution might think about in terms of holding your investment accounts, your RRSPs and tax-free savings accounts, and whether they'll actually allow you to trade on them once you're a non-resident or an ex-Canadian expat. In this video, I'm going to try to dive into that topic in question that a lot of people have. In fact, I've had this question come up recently in a previous video. We'll talk about whether institutions will allow you to keep your accounts, whether you're allowed to trade in them, what the tax implications might be, and a lot more. And after that, I'm going to give you a call to action to tell you what I would do if I was going to become a Canadian expat. Okay, so let's get into it. Number one, can you hold your RRSPs, your tax-free savings accounts, your non-registered account in your financial institution if you become a Canadian expat? And the simple answer to that is, I don't know if your financial institution will let you or not. You got to call them and ask them. But yes, you are able to keep your accounts at a financial institution. Whether yours will allow you to do it or not, that's a question you have to ask them by calling them directly or speaking with a professional there. You are not required to sell your RRSPs when you leave Canada. So even if your financial institution decides that they don't want you to open up new accounts, they may be required to keep that account open, but with a lot of restrictions. So don't forget that just the fact that you have it open doesn't mean you may have access to it fully. And before I go any further, I should have started with this. I'm going to put the disclaimer as well. This is not specific advice to anybody out there specifically. You need to speak with your own financial professional. This is not an official channel for the firm that I work with. This is a channel that I'm putting together for Canadians who are interested in living, working, or retiring abroad, such as myself. And I'm getting all the information that is coming to me through questions and investigating it, because what's going to help you is going to help me down the road as well. So I'm very passionate about that. I've been doing this for 25 years in the industry as a financial professional, and now I'm putting my focus on this part of the Canadian market that they want to just move abroad and live abroad. Okay. So where was I? So number two, basically, you can hold your accounts open. You don't have to close them. You're not required to close them. I mean, imagine you had $500,000 in an RRSP and you had to close it. That would be a huge tax bill. But what you might not be able to do is actually actively trade anymore. And one of the reasons for that is that there's compliance and restrictions, and the jurisdictions, like we're licensed in Canada. A lot of these firms, they won't have a footprint in a foreign country. And that foreign country has their own securities laws. So if you become a resident of that country, you're now under the securities laws of that country. So anybody with a license in Canada that's not licensed in that country can't really give you advice, because they haven't done the courses, they haven't gotten the accreditation to be able to do that. So you'd have to find someone in that country. But of course, even if you find someone in that country, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to automatically move over your RRSP, because there might not be an account there that you can move it to. Or how would you move it? Like, it would basically taking it all out, paying the tax, and moving it over. As a new Canadian expat, you might just want to, take that first year to sniff around and see the environment, find out what the banking system is like, if there's financial planning services like what you're accustomed to in Canada. So really, the important thing is to know you don't have to close your account, but you may not be able to trade because of the restrictions. What can you do? Well, there are firms out there. For example, my firm does allow you to, if you're a Canadian and you've opened the account before you've left, we can hold those accounts for you. What I cannot do is I cannot call you, if you're my client, and say, I want to talk to you about and doing a review for you and figure out if we should move things around or not. I can't do that anymore. You have to be already knowing what you want to do in your investment accounts, and you would have to contact me to say, I want to sell this fund and buy that fund, and I can take those instructions and put that in the notes, make sure that it's all above board and everything like that. But I can't actually call you to actually offer that advice. So what do? Like, you're planning to leave for 20, 30 years, maybe the rest of your life, and you're wondering, what if I want to make changes? I'm not skilled in this. I don't know what to do. Well, in many cases, what we'll do is we'll prepare before you go, and this actually gets into the end of the presentation. When I give you my call to action, what I would do. So I'll get a little bit into that right now because this is an unscripted video, folks. I'm sorry, I'm doing the best I can here, trying to get you the information that's relevant to you. And this question comes up so many times. And what I would suggest is, before you go, take the time and interview 2 or 3 or 4 financial professionals that are accredited and they can do financial plans, and tell them what your plan is. And you'll immediately find out if they can help you or not, because either they'll say, I'm sorry, we can't do that. Or yes, we can help you with a plan. And yes, we can hold your accounts. And here are the restrictions. And we're going to get involved, all the different professionals involved, like, for example, legals and estates and accountants, and we can all work together for you for a plan. Knowing that any plan you put together is not going to be a static plan, it can change over time. So do that, do yourself a favor. Find 2, 3, 4 professionals, give them a call, and schedule a meeting and interview them, just as they're going to interview you, because you already know that there's nothing set in stone that you can actually manage your account. Even if you do it through like an online brokerage, I've heard people say that their broker just told them they can't trade anymore. Well, it might not be fully the case. I did some research on some brokerages. I'm not going to say which ones they are. They do allow you to trade in small restricted areas. Like, you can't do mutual funds or things like that, but they can offer discretionary managed solutions. And most likely the reason for that is a discretionary managed solution takes away the onus of having to have an actual discussion about rebalancing. So think about this. Imagine you had 10 mutual funds or 10 investments. You had like a bond fund, a Canadian fund, a US fund, an Asia fund, a technology fund, like all these different funds all over the place. Normally, if you were in Canada, you might meet with your financial planner every once in a while, and you take a look at this, and you might have decisions and say, okay, I think we should rebalance by moving some money from the Canadian to the US, or US to the Canadian, or whatever. But now you can't do that anymore because you're in another country and we can't give you advice. However, a discretionary managed solution takes that away, because you basically sign a document saying, I agree to the fact that yes, I'm a conservative investor or a balanced investor, or I'm an aggressive investor, and you would come to that conclusion with a deep discussion with your financial professional. A good financial professional might even challenge you on whether you're an aggressive investor or a conservative investor. You might not just take your word at it, because what you consider a conservative investor might be an aggressive investor for someone else. So a really good financial professional has been doing this for a while and has an intuitive sense that what you might be saying is aggressive might not actually be aggressive. So again, that's the importance of interviewing a few different planners to see if you connect with each other, if you like each other, if you trust each other, and if they can add value to you and you can add value to them. So going back to the discretionary portfolio then, if you've already decided in advance that, okay, for my RRSP, I'm 50 years old, I want it to last as long as possible, and I'm going to be like a conservative investor, a balanced investor, then they'll invest it into a discretionary portfolio where they automatically rebalance for you without having to pick up the phone and say, hey, Joe, Jane, how's life over there in the new country? By the way, we need to rebalance. They don't have to call you. They're just going to rebalance and keep it within that risk profile that you agreed to. Now, what if that changes? What if your risk profile changes? Well, there's nothing to stop you from calling and giving directions. So now, unfortunately, this is still the onus is on you. So a lot of good pre-planning is really, really important for this. Like thinking about everything that could go wrong and then still knowing that something can fall off the rails. And what I mean by that, you're 55 or 65 or 75 and you plan to live somewhere else. We gather all the data. This is where the benefit of good financial plan comes in. We gather all the data and we say, okay, we've agreed, or you've done your research that you think you're going to spend 2,500 euros per month. All right. Let's say it's 3,000 euros. Let's bump it up, give us a little bit of a buffer. How far can that take us? Our financial plan will then show us, based on your pensions, your RRSPs, tax-free savings accounts, non-registered, whatever, rental income, whatever that is that's coming in, it's going to last theoretically to a certain age based on a certain inflation assumptions that we can build in, whether there's risks of market declines, whatever we can think of. So we put all that information in, and guess what? If it's like really on the edge, you're still going to get a report to say, you know what, it can work, but if anything falls off the rails, you're going to be in trouble. As an adult, you're going to make that decision whether you want to take that risk or not. I remember when we got our first house, and we qualified for a bigger mortgage than what we actually got. But the mortgage person told us, you know, you qualify for it, but if something happens, you lose a job or something and you can't make a payment, it's going to be tight. So as adults, we made our decision whether we wanted to get that bigger mortgage or not. But at least we had the information that we could do that. And that's the same thing with the financial plan. I hope this doesn't come off as too much rambling, but it probably does. Give me some feedback in the comments below if this is something that you like, or something a bit more scripted. Again, my main focus is to try to get you the information that you need. That's something that I would need, and as if I was in your shoes, and what I would do. So going back, so we're talking about discretionary portfolios. You would be recommended to do in most situations, so that there's no need to call and do any rebalancing. But it doesn't stop you from saying, you know what, here's my pile of money, here's my pensions. I'm going to carve out this much money and put it into a bank account for the next, to be as like my cash for the next 1 year to 2 years. And maybe that's your idea of just figuring out the landscape of where you are. And in that time frame, you might decide to come back to Canada, or you might not, or you might decide to liquidate more, or anything can happen in 2 years. But at least you've got that 1 year buffer, 2 year buffer, where it doesn't matter what happens with the markets going up or down. It's going to go up, it's going to go down, but you won't have to stress out that, oh my goodness, something's happening, then I need money, and it's going to be, and the market is a downward spiral, and I'm going to be selling at a loss. All right, so I think I've answered the question, but maybe not. So I'm going to be very clear here. Can you hold your investment accounts at a Canadian financial institution if you leave Canada? Yes, you can. You have to do some research, find out which ones make sense for you, whether that's a discount online brokerage or whether it's with a professional financial planner like myself. Do your research, contact and find out, do your interviews. Can you make trades while you're outside of Canada? In limited cases, yes, you can, but you can't expect any financial planning advice to be coming towards you. You have to make your own decisions. So that onus is on you. So the more conservative you can be, maybe that might be helpful, because if you're super aggressive and you have to decide on your own, you really have to go on your own mettle and decision, and not just about, there's nothing about knowing about the markets. It's about your own emotional fortitude when you see a big drop in your financial portfolio and wondering whether you should sell or not, because that's how I've seen a lot of people in the past, when they're not working with a financial planner and they don't remember what they're doing, that they put aside already money in their bank account for the rainy day and not worry about so much about the current market fluctuations, that they actually lose money because they sell and they crystallize those losses. So in a long-winded way, I hope this has helped. Probably not, because I just try to get it all out there. I promise I'll get better at this, and I'll have more scripted videos in the future with more information. In the meantime, leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you want to know in the future. And I hope to meet you one day and have a cappuccino on a cobblestone street somewhere in Europe, as I like to say. Have a good one. Ciao.